like I tried this off the house, and it was like,
talk about cement. Cement's you in place.
I
think anyone who knows anything about life knows that you're always moving forward or backward. Even the idea that you're just standing still. It's just a feeling.
And I began to plan to take my wallet. I didn't have any identification or way to prove who I was. Couldn't even speak the language.
And I'm going to
I was
ask
scared that you might have to
Mr.
leave.
Jimmy Tapo.
And you walked all the way from Ensenada to the American border.
A conversation.
I walked outside at night, and the Sunday morning I found the old adobe house, and I crawled through a window and slept. I don't know how long I was asleep, but it was dark when I woke up. I started to walk again. I walked all Sunday night, too. I got to the border, I had to go through the gate, so I went down by the riverbed and found a hole in the fence. I crawled through and went over the American side. When I got there, I felt better. Safe. I figured that I'd go up to the first policeman I saw and tell him what happened. Did you notify the authorities down in San Diego? No, I got to the police station, but I didn't go in. I didn't tell them. Why not? Like I said, I didn't have any way to prove who I was. One of them, my wallet was gone. My clothes were all torn. Face was all torn. I thought it'd be better if I could get to Kevin's mother. If I could see her and talk to her, she'd know what to do. I hitched a ride. I wanted to go to San Francisco. Truck driver brought me this far. While we were driving, I thought more and more about what I'd say to Kevin's mother. How I'd tell her he was dead. And I knew I couldn't do it. But I had more. That's why I came to see you. The ghosts were going to have to go back down to Mexico. We'll be able to show us where the body is.
That's leasesidemanor.ca. Invest in
I
shape,
can tell you exactly where it was. I can give you a map. Tell you right where he's buried. Do you want to give us that information now? Yeah. It was south of Ensenada, 40 miles down the new paved highway. South of Ensenada, 40 miles. You sure it was 40 miles? Yeah. While we were driving, Kevin and I kept trying to figure out how many kilometers to a mile. I kept watching the speedometer. It was just 40 miles when we turned off the paved highway onto a little dirt road. 40 miles. Yeah. There's a clump of trees near there in the gully. You can't miss it. Can you give us a description of the license? I don't remember the license number, but the call was 51 for today. Dark blue.
Is always in season.
TC Energy telling us not to tear up the land. Don't make ruts.
Choose the 2021 Versa that has amazing fuel economy ratings from
I'm gonna try to be generous tonight. Lethargy, okay? Political lethargy.
You reek of it, bro.
Well, you're not going to come upon a so-called magic mushrooms by accident. If it's
well, says you. I find them growing all over the place in Ontario area. They're an endemic species here.
Of course,
and all the other mushrooms.
And there are telltale signs that will distinguish them. For example, turning blue upon touch will be a sign. One sign that you have a so-called magic mushroom.
What?
And they turn blue, as you say, on touch, but it's how they're consumed and what they do to people's mental state that is in question here. Because what some people would regard as maybe a negative effect of taking these magic mushrooms, people having psychedelic, out-of-body experiences.
Psychedelic's not a medical term.
It's now been said from this study that a particular drug there could help people who are suffering from depression. How is that so? Tell us more, please.
Well, this approximately 6-hour experience has profound effects on the brain and on the psyche.
6 hours? You lying
research over the last 20 years suggests that these changes create a psychological opening with more mental flexibility, more
they all want to sound cool, like all the other white
increase in the openness of one's personality that makes them more open to therapeutic change. There's still research that needs to be done to understand the ongoing biological correlates long term of that, but it's not that it has this biological effect of making.
So no, psilocybin will not. I don't know nothing about them turning blue to the touch. That's what the fuck he's talking about. The mushrooms that you think you buy at the grocery store that you see growing outside, those are not the same mushrooms. The mushrooms at the grocery store are grown in complete darkness. The mushrooms growing outside that look like that, they're not the same species at all. They're exceptionally toxic. Where I live, and this doesn't apply to anywhere else, Psilocybin are endemic. There's no other mushrooms here that look like them, and all the other psychoactive mushrooms, they don't grow here. They don't look the same at all as psilocybin. So the problem with other ones is they're red with white dots, white with red dots, and they're poisonous. For example, there's if you know which ones are which, you can't make that mistake. Here where I live, I don't know nothing about blue turning blue to the touch. I do know they don't look like the ones you buy off the street or the internet, because those are supposed to be growing in complete darkness, and the ones that grow outside don't look the same.
Person and the context, but they're typically not drugs of addiction.
Briefly, do you think this is psilocybin, this research is leading to something that will happen quite soon, or is it a long time in the offing?
Well, it's going to depend on the results of larger studies, which are underway or yet to be conducted, but probably
like a fungus.
Here in the United States, probably over the next 4 or 5 years.
I tried to tell you on the street, these are psilocybin.
Similar track record
pay money
in
to me.
the UK, we're looking at for potential approval for straight-up medical use outside of research studies.
Dr. Matthew Johnson, thank you very much indeed. And he's at Johns Hopkins University in Maryland.
You, of course, are listening to Newsday here on the BBC World Service with Rahul and
I know for sure how to identify the mushrooms.
Biden has announced that the United States will complete.
If you want to know how I know how to identify the mushrooms, it's the Ontario Field Guide to Mushrooms, illustrated. It's at the Toronto Public Library too.
Other digital currency trading has hit a market value of nearly $100 billion on its first trading day on Wall Street. And the former policewoman in the U.S. state of Minnesota, as we've been hearing, has been charged with manslaughter over the fatal shooting of a young black man following a confrontation at a traffic stop. Let's get some sports news now from James. Greg James, I've got lots of messages from Liverpool fans on my phone this morning, friends. They're not happy.
They're not happy at all. That's because they are out of the Champions League, Rahul. They drew 0-0 with Real Madrid at Anfield last night.
You gave 30 seconds to the U.S. withdraw from Afghanistan.
Went out 3.
Varieties: honey mustard ham, savory turkey ranch, Italian aioli, and chipotle.
Something in your coat pocket? No, I don't carry anything in my coat pockets. Stretches them. Well, you take a look anyway, huh? I told you I don't use them. See? Nothing. How about the inside pocket? No. There's nothing there. Let's have a look. Huh? I told you there's nothing there. Then you won't mind if we have a look. What's that you got there, Bruce? That's my wallet. Guess they didn't take it after all. Gee, thanks for finding it. No, I probably wouldn't have thought to look for it. I just figured that it was gone. Here, let me have it. Let's see what's in it. It's just some cards, personal stuff like that. Nothing you'd be interested in. I forgot all about it. I feel pretty silly. I didn't even know it was there. Take a look, too. You say this is your wallet, is that right, Bruce? Yeah, it's mine. I told you it's mine. How about letting me have it, huh? There's quite a bit of money in here, Bruce. Huh? I don't know. Just a glance here looks to be about $1,000, doesn't it? Just a minute. I think I can explain that. There's another thing here I don't think you can explain. What's that? The name in the wallet? Kevin Bradley.
You are listening to Greg.
Handing out snacks shortly.
The valuation was $62 million, and people just snapped up the shares, pushed up the price. It went up as far as valuing Coinbase as more than $100 billion.
Right, because that's what pushes the price up.
The shares did retreat a bit, and they closed out.
Personal level investors are buying off people that are ahead of you in line to buy it. It's not you pushing up the price, buying off each other.
It's difficult to tell. I mean, for a start, Coinbase.
It's no different than Facebook. You have to be a certain level of investor to be allowed to buy Facebook. Why? Because it's not a real company that makes money. They got all sorts of weirdo shit on the go. So when there's different levels. There's the underwriters, and then a whole bunch of people come down to brokers, and then their preferred clients, and then
very big different Paul Vigner at the Wall Street Journal.
Money for it? No way. A favorable seller's market is an opportunity.
You can listen to that one on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. Despite being severely shorthanded without Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, and Gary Trent Jr., the Raptors still battled to pull out a 117-112 win over the San Antonio Spurs Raps take on the Magic next on Friday. Maple Leafs have the night off, get back at it Thursday when they host the Winnipeg Jets. Few finals from around the National Hockey League. Flames burn Montreal 4-1. Jets outlast Ottawa 3-2. Wild tame the Coyotes 5-2. Avalanche edge the Blues 4-3. And in the NFL, three-time Pro Bowl pass rusher Jadeveon Clowney has signed a one-year, $10 million deal with the Cleveland Browns. Sports at 15 and 45 past every hour or anytime at sportsnet.ca/590.
680 News Time, 12:19. Ottawa is investing more than $2 million to help Toronto fight the opioid crisis, which has been getting worse as this pandemic rages on. 680's Momin Qureshi joins us with the details.
Just in February alone, Meritori says there were 411 emergency calls for opioid overdoses, 26 of them fatal.
This is a huge, tragic, worsening, preventable health crisis.
Health Minister Patty Hajdu announcing the federal government is investing $7.7 million in different programs in Toronto, including $2.3 million for a pharmaceutical alternative to opioids, which will be offered out of the work-supervised consumption site. It's the first time this type of alternative will be offered here in Toronto.
We know these initiatives are going to save lives. It really is about flexible treatment options and harm reduction options and treating people with compassion and respect.
You're going to have the methadone and Suboxone. Watch.
Different kinds of supports and services.
The program will initially be offered to 35 people with the goal of expanding it over time. I'm Momin Qureshi.
Hiring can be challenging.
Because Norway gets a lot of the good press for a whole bunch of reasons. And Norway is usually on those top 10 lists. As a matter of fact, Norway is always either number 1 or 2 or 3. So it's interesting to have someone pick any place on earth over Norway, but you've got interesting familial ties, and I appreciate your company very much. Thank you for calling us, Wendy, and I hope to hear from you again down the road. Taking it to Emil in Calgary, Alberta. Emil, you're up on Charles Adler tonight. If you had to leave Canada, where would you go?
There were 2 places. One would be Singapore, and the other would be Bahamas. But like everything else, you look at Singapore, I go there because there's lots of culture. You're in the center of Asia. Everything is clean. You don't need a car because we've got the best transport in the world. Yet, at the age of 60, I was thrown out of Singapore when I went to visit because I wrote the landing immigration card or visitor's card in the wrong ink. I ran out of a pen. I borrowed somebody else. It was red ink. I wrote all my details on it, and they asked me to leave the country because it was in the wrong color ink. These are the same people whom you ban from chewing gum, for instance. So on the one hand, you have this kind of a country. On the other, you have something that the country itself rules you in everything that you do. The second place I would have gone to would have been the Bahamas. But once again, beautiful country, beautiful scenery in the world, lovely seats. Yet, one block away from Bay Street and you could be killed, and you're told not to walk away from the main street. So, you can always see the best in something, but there's always the other side of the coin.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be rude. I can't believe the story about the ink.
Yeah, the ink, I couldn't believe it.
Pardon me, I guess I'm a Canadian. I can't take stuff like that.
Where does it say on the rule? Where does it say on the rules that it was ink? It was look on there, on the back side of the card, in tiny little letters, amongst other things, you can only use black and blue ink.
Okay.
The
reason I find it incredible is because everyone I know.
Now, the guy saying that sounds like he has a British accent. The Singaporeans got it from the Chinese, got it from the Hong Kongers, got it from the British.
They do so many things right, especially when it
they
comes
do
to
that shit here.
especially when it comes to safety.
In school, they told us it was for the teachers to march to work with a red
pen. About ink.
I wonder how many people in Canada would go somewhere else and stay there for more than 2 or 3 months without realizing how great this country was. I had to force to flee out of Africa when I was 5. I went to England. I stayed there for 20 years. I was adopted by an English family. From there, I came to Canada. My father worked in the airlines. I went to over 100 different countries.
What are you running from, bro?
And I'm looking at Canada now. I'm in the middle of Calgary, and I'm crying. I came to Calgary when I was 24 years old. I've got my kids at the same age, and I'm telling them to leave Canada. I saw so much opportunity in this country, in Calgary in particular. And I was only supposed to be here for a few months, and I've spent 40 years here. Never left Calgary. I loved it so much. And now I'm telling my own kids are at an age to leave, and it's just so sad.
Why are you asking your kids to leave?
Because there are no opportunities. We've got a liberal government who doesn't seem to care about us whatsoever within Alberta. We used to have opportunities galore. You know, I made terrible mistakes in my life. I lost businesses. I was able to make a comeback, but I was able to live a dream. I have contacts, and anything I want to do, I have a network of people that I can go to and come to. I was treated as an equal in here. It didn't matter what the color of your skin was. They looked at what you could produce for the team around you, the people around you, and they took you as even. And one of the reasons they did that was
coming from a white British guy. They didn't look at the color of your skin. You're a foreigner here. We can't get the jobs they are allowed to bring you in for.
They talk about, you know, jobs and all this other stuff too. Calgary, I'm an accountant. I have people who are not educated, who had a year or two in high school. They left, but they worked bloody hard. They went to all the remote places in Alberta to work on the oil wells and oil fields and all of these other places. They were earning $150,000, $200,000 a year. They went and bought a whole bunch of houses. They bought cars. They lived a beautiful life. They were able to take their kids into university and pay for those things. Now they've got no opportunity at all. It's not the rich that are suffering. It's those people that came from every part of Canada to this place, to Calgary, to Alberta, because it gave them huge opportunities.
Every last one of them is a meth head. Every last one of them. I'll break everything down he just said. He's from TC Energy. He's not just some random guy that called up. He's from TransCanada. Pay attention to the commercials are running, and this guy pops up.
We're going to continue with this.
When your bank account does more, your money does more, so you can live more too. Switch to the Scotiabank Ultimate Package and get a savings rate of up to 1.8%, unlimited Interac e-transfer transactions, an annual credit card fee waiver on select credit cards, and a $300 welcome bonus. It's the bank account that lets you do more, all from one package. Conditions apply. Rate is for a limited time and varies by savings period. Visit scotiabank.com/ultimate300. Scotiabank.
Thanks for calling 1-800-GOT-JUNK. This is Sarah. How can I help?
I knew it. I thought it was elves. Uh-oh. Do you remember me?
Sure I do. You called last year because you thought our truck team members wear caps to hide their elf ears.
But you don't use elves. You use fairies.
What makes you say that?
I met Charlotte. What a delight.
You met Charlotte?
First I pointed, then the junk disappeared. But the sparkle sound came a little bit late. So I said, you should probably make that sparkle sound a little bit quicker.
And then what happened?
And then Charlotte materialized.
All those people that went out there making all that money, blah, blah, blah. They were paying like $48,000 a year to have a room. They were paying like $5,000 to have a tent in a yard. All those houses they bought, they are the reason those houses were so expensive. What they built the houses out of? Trees and drywall imported from China. Garbage. The cars imported. Garbage. So they drove up the price. The entire fucking industry is subsidized. Don't kid yourself. They were required to set aside. They were required to set aside money to clean up the tailings ponds. They got money from the government to clean up the tailings ponds. They still didn't do it. They're now asking They're asking for a third bailout to clean up the tailings ponds. They want these small modular reactors. Same station, 6:40 a.m. earlier tonight. They want the small modular reactor to heat up the ground to get the oil out to sell it subsidized at a loss to the Americans. And as for not caring what color your skin is, yeah, as long as you're white or you're a nigger who takes orders and knows his place. That's it. And they treat Asians the same way Hitler did and the South African government did. As long as you act white, we'll tell you you're better than blacks and natives. They do that. It doesn't mean that the Chinese or whoever believes that, but that's what they do. It's not a real industry. Okay, they'll go on and on and on about certain years when, oh, we were making the transfer payments and blah, 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 blah. And it's an energy solution for the world forever. 1999 when they started doing it. So they knew in 79 they could extract the oil from the tar sands. It was never about technology. It was about price. Do you know what technology they're using now? The same as they did then, like natural gas or coal or something. Heats up the oil, and the oil drips out of the sand. That's it. There's nothing special. But they needed the price of gas, the retail price of gasoline, to go above $1 a liter in order to do that. When did that start happening? 99, 2000. Just when they started the tar sands was in, or the hardcore the extraction was in 99, and price went over $1. What, 2000, 2001, something like that. And they tried to present it as being an energy solution to the world. What they didn't say is that it would only be useful for about productive for about 20 years. And in order to be an energy solution in order to feed the demand for oil, they would need to find Athabasca, whatever, tar sands every 6 months. So we started this one in 99. That's 22 years ago. Did we do 44 of these since then? No. And these are the same people right now insisting that 10,000 RCMP go kill them with Sweeten so we can run that pipeline that doesn't exist for natural gas that we don't have to sell off this export facility that hasn't been built to ships that haven't been built to ship it to China, who isn't going to buy it and would need an import facility that they aren't going to build because Gazprom already built them a pipeline. Which is why 2 years ago you heard the liberals blah blah blahing about Russia supplying gas to Ukraine and they shouldn't be doing it. 2 years before that there was like one of these cold ass winters that killed off all sorts of people in Eastern Europe and Northern Asia, China, and Canada's bitching that, oh, we don't like Putin, he shouldn't be selling gas to you people. Well, those governments have to heat their people.
Criticizing the Trudeau government in the House of Commons for failing to deliver enough vaccines. He calls it an international embarrassment. But Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says 20% of Canadians have received at least a first dose of any vaccine. BC's top doctor is calling for bold action and compassion for people who use illegal drugs. The province is marking 5 years since the declaration of a public health emergency. Dr. Bonnie Henry says that COVID-19 has
cocaine, heroin, ketamine, phencyclidine, PCP. That's what PCP really is. If your PCP comes in a glass bottle and it's wet, that's formaldehyde, not PCP. Are all legal drugs in Canada.
In 2020, nearly double the total of the year before. Fentanyl is being detected in a whopping 80% of drug deaths in the province. And 8 people have been arrested for anti-pipeline protests that left a mess in downtown Vancouver. Protesters targeted the offices of 2 companies that provide insurance for the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion. Garbage was dumped and paint and graffiti splattered on the buildings.
I told you boys weren't safe. I told you weren't safe. We're just the insurers. We're just the white boy insurers. We play guitar and listen to Beatles. Don't give a fuck. You're fucking dead, stupid. We home invade the fucking prime minister. Do you not understand what you're dealing with? And the next company that insures them and the next one and so on. The reinsurance companies. I don't give a fuck. The underwriters, all of you, you can all catch it. And hey, that goes way back. You've been ripping off trust fund money from me for a long time. So yeah, I'm not going to help anybody prosecute anybody that fucking hurts you people.
That decided.
I'm not going to stop any of them. I'll tell them exactly which office is yours.
The Netherlands and the Kingdom in the United States and a number of other countries. We're number 1, very, very proud.
On what list? On a list some random idiot wrote on Blog.to. Wow.
Yes, the question.
Just wait for them to tell you that, oh, the UN said it's the best city in the world. For 30 years they've been saying that. The UN never said it. The United Nations never said that.
The gates are open. What country would you move to? So we got a full phone bank of calls here. We're going to try to take a few more just before our next break. Got a text here from Alberta that says, Charles, I'm a 26-year-old female from Calgary. If I had to move from Canada, I'd move to Tel Aviv in Israel. I went on a birthright trip a few years ago. It had been completely sold. I think it's an up-and-coming entrepreneurial and tech hub filled with opportunity for young people, and the country is beautiful. I love it. Next in line would be the
all you
U.S.
have to do
maybe
is
Seattle,
kill off all the
or
niggers on
somewhere
the
near the
land.
mountains in
Damn.
California. And this is from Michaela. I've
basically
got the right
illegal,
pronunciation.
almost.
Micaela, Michaela, or Michaela from Calgary. Michaela, thank you so much for that. Dan is in Edmonton, and you're up next, Dan, on Charles Adler tonight.
Hi, Roy. How are you?
We're good.
First time caller here.
Just wanted to welcome you appropriately. Go ahead, Dan.
Okay, thanks. First of all, I'm 72 years old tomorrow, and for most of my life, I've been a very proud Canadian. But for the last few years, so probably less than 10, I'm almost embarrassed to be a Canadian. We've been laughed at in countries because we're Canadian. Anyways, we travel to Mexico a lot in the winter time. We usually spend some part of the winter in Mexico, and we love Mexico. Love the people, love the food, love everything about it. Largely the affordability of it. But other than that, if I could afford it, we traveled to Malta once in the Mediterranean there.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, that is the most fabulous place I've ever been. And
just stuck on one thing. You were saying that they're laughing at us. Who is laughing at us? I'm not sure what you're
we were in Spain. We were in Spain about a year and a half ago, and we were sitting in a restaurant, and we were talking to these people from Belgium, and they asked us where we were from, and I said we're from Canada, and he laughed. Oh, you got Trudeau, and I said, oh yeah, we got Trudeau.
I don't like Belgians either. I mean, they talk a lot of shit. They don't make very good chocolate. There's some weirdo shit going on with little kids.
I just don't want to get into another 5 minutes of Trudeau bashing because we're on roll here with a real good spirit. What country would we go to if we had to leave Canada? This is Ron calling in from Burnaby. Ron, you're up on Charles Adler tonight. Hi.
Well, I won't make the mistake of calling you Roy.
Actually,
that was pretty good. It's okay. It's even though.
In the old days when he was facing Kenny on regularly, he would often mistakenly call me Roy. So that's a compliment. Roy Green is a tremendous first-class broadcaster and a friend of mine. So I'm never offended by that.
It's real simple. Dominican, where do you know that you can have an entire family on one scooter with half their belongings, and they're all happy?
What are you talking about?
There are some places.
Yeah, because they're not on the other side of the island, stupid.
So you moved to the DR.
I've got 6 friends that live there, and I've got.
I hope they all fucking die of Ebola, bro.
That except for COVID, have gone there every year for the last 10 years, and they even with the hurricanes and all that stuff, they wouldn't go anywhere else.
So, Ron, there's one reason why I would get along very well in the Dominican Republic, and you may not like the reason, but I'm going to tell you anyway, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
Hockey's like religion to a lot of us, so hockey's always number one, but putting hockey aside,
well, Canada's national sport is lacrosse.
Williams says officers performed CPR on the victim at the scene before he was rushed to hospital. He says the teen is now in stable condition. Police tell us there's limited information about suspects.
You know what I don't want? Police doing CPR on me. You know what else is a bad idea? Letting the police declare you dead. 1,200 people have stepped in front of subway trains. 0 people have ever died on TTC property. They all officially died on the sidewalk.
Mayor John Tory announcing Hyde Park will remain open through the spring. Melissa Nicopoli of City News has more.
People will be able to walk or run or bike through the park, but we are encouraging people not to flock to the park to see the cherry blossoms. The best way to see the cherry blossoms, as was the case last year,
to go to China.
And this year will be from your own home.
And Tori says while the park remains open for neighborhood residents requiring exercise, as you just heard, he is stressing that people do not swarm the park to see the cherry blossoms. Last year, the park was fully closed to ensure physical distancing. To discourage overcrowding, the city will be installing fencing around the 3 largest collection of cherry blossoms in the park, and the area will also be monitored by staff.
Just like last year, the city says it'll be live
So
streaming
you
the
can
cherry
grab the
blossoms
fence instead of the tree. You guys are geniuses. What does putting a fence around it have to do with anything?
Protests continue this
You are
morning
fucking
with
stupid.
trucking companies, independent drivers, and members of the construction industry protesting as part of the Don't Dump On Us.ca campaign. Organizers say the road rally will be peaceful and is expected
That's
to get
not a
going
road
at 8
rally,
a.m. in
you
Mississauga
fucking
and
moron.
traveling along 2 routes in the GTA. They say the
1,000 people marching in the street is a rally. What they're doing could be called a demonstration or a protest, but it's not a rally. It's not a road rally. A road rally is a whole bunch of people racing cars in the street. You fucking retard. I hope you hear me. I hope somebody plays for you. Me calling you retarded and it hurts your
collaborate with them
feelings.
and find solutions to the industry issues and concerns.
Solutions.
You're listening to 680 News. The Toronto Raptors take the win in last night's game against the San Antonio Spurs. Andy McNamara of Sportsnet 590 The Fan tells us what went down.
Short-handed Raptors grind out a win. Despite being without several regulars, including Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, and Gary Trent Jr., the Raptors still managed to beat the San Antonio Spurs 117-112. Raps face the Magic next on Friday.
Stay tuned for more during sports at 15 and 45. Still to come on 680 News, we'll check the price at the pumps.
Families, be sure your spring break is fun and safe. Continue to screen for COVID-19 symptoms daily and stay indoors if you feel unwell. Enjoy outdoor activities
It's one of those
safely
medicine
and close to home.
type teas that you really don't want to
Continue
taste.
physical distancing. Wash your hands and
Smells
wear a
like hot
mask.
feet.
Following public health advice will help stop the spread of COVID-19. Visit
Oh, really?
ontario.ca/COVID.
You need to care about me to wear your mask and hand sanitize. No, I don't think so. The advice we've been getting from public health is pathetic.
And it was there from all.
The doctors said 30 meters. Droplets travel 30 meters. The variants, the mutated varieties, the cultivars, not only will they not be cured with a vaccine, you're 8 times more likely to have the variant if you're vaccinated. Yes, you are. Look it up. Let's see. This shit's airborne. So the 30 meters, 100 feet for droplets doesn't mean anything.
And this is Peter. Peter, you're up on Charles Adler tonight.
And being airborne means your mask ain't gonna do shit. I was reading the package on one of these things. It said 65% non-textile material or whatever. It's a sheet of plastic. You're putting a sheet of polyester over your face with holes punched in it. It's not a filter for anything.
Quality. I would say red, white, and the moon pink.
Yeah, I was doing a hypothetical, Peter, but maybe you're just not having.
No, I know you were, but what you're talking about, that's okay. But to me, there's no way I would leave my own country.
No, I wasn't talking about voluntary. I said if you had to leave, where would you go? That was the question.
I'd stay here.
Nobody's trying to get you to leave the country after.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I said, me personally.
Yeah.
I would say right where I am. I don't care. Like right now.
It's like on the north and south 400 to Aurora Road, down to a single lane both directions. And it looks like they're doing rolling blockages, so you might get stopped up through there, depending on what time you actually arrive at Aurora Road and through this construction stretch, but a bit of a delay through there. Eastbound and westbound 407 ramps to the north 427 closed. East 401 ramps to and from Jamestown Parkway blocked. Winston Churchill ramps to the east 401 shut down, and eastbound 401
Did you say something about red?
Oh, being a Robin Redbreast, you would quirk up at that. Yes, just like we can always tell you by your color, the fellas and girls can always tell Quaker Puffed Wheat and Quaker Puffed Rice by the red and blue packages with the smiling Quaker man on the front. They're never sold in bags or bulk. So fellas and girls, get the original, crisp, fresh Quaker Puffed Wheat and Quaker Puffed Rice. Shop from Gun.
there's just enough instability in the atmosphere. We could see some
We get a lot cooler. We're going down to only plus
active
3, and we do have that chance to see a few isolated showers. For Friday, we are looking at showers again, but our daytime high, a touch warmer. Seeing a daytime high of 9. We should be around 12 for this time of year. Our daytime high expected today is 8.
The average might be 12. We will never be 12. Where we are, no matter what the average was, no matter if it's how many years you average it out, you will never have a day that's the same as the average.
680 news time, 12:44.
Like, not even close.
There's water everywhere.
Dad, a pipe broke.
Germany or Scotland. I've been to Germany in the 80s. For such a small country, it's one of the most beautiful countries I've ever seen. With the exception of Canada, I've never heard Germany being called a small country. But I guess, compared to Canada, 99% of countries are.
Hey, Germany compares itself to Austria, Italy, and France.
But if it is, as some people say, kind of like Nova Scotia, it would indeed be beautiful. I could also wear my kilt there. Great show. Basil McMurray in Peterborough, Ontario. Basil, thank you so much. This show is produced by Jimmy Dabo Okunsola, and our technical producer is Riley Hall. Our executive producer is Lady Catherine Stewart. In just a few moments, Shane Hewitt to tell us what's going up next hour on the ship. Thank you for joining us in the greatest country on earth. This is Charles Adler tonight.
Hello, I'm Wolfgang Klein, portfolio manager.
Even entertainment about the RCMP has to come from Detroit.
I talked to Scar Brandon on the night you left Dawson.
Brandon? Oh, yes, Scar. I remember. Yes, I did.
You know dressing him?
Well, yes.
Was he an old friend?
No, I'd never met him before. He'd heard me sing in San Francisco. He just wanted to say hello.
Carol, if people are telling the truth, and that's an open question, you were the last person to see him alive.
What?
He was killed the night you left Dawson.
Terrible.
You didn't know about it.
Well, how could I?
Wasn't your marriage a little sudden?
Perhaps, but what does that have to do with
It
it?
was only a question. I'm going to ask a lot of them.
No. No, I'll tell you.
You'll tell me what?
Why I wanted to get away from Dawson. Why our marriage was so sudden. Scar Brandon was the reason. I called myself Carol Lee in Dawson, but my real name is Donovan. I had a brother named Mike, and, well, he was, oh, I suppose you'd call him bad. He was a gambler, perhaps even a criminal. I don't know. It didn't make any difference to me. He was my brother, the only family tie I had in the world. He was killed. No one was ever punished for it. It was an unsolved mystery. But I found out who did it.
Who?
Blackjack Gannon. I had no proof, and he'd already left San Francisco for the Yukon, so I came up here. I changed my name and took a job singing for him. I was looking for the chance to get even for what he'd done to Mike.
But you didn't find it?
No. The only way I've heard Gannon was through Whitey, letting him go.
Just how does Scar Brandon enter the picture?
You know, I was Mike's sister. He threatened to tell Gannon, and suddenly I was afraid.
I see.
That's all. That's all, Sergeant. Does Bill have to know about... Oh, it's all so sordid. I haven't done anything really wrong. Can't we forget the past?
You sure you've told me everything?
Well, yes. Isn't it enough?
No, Carol.
Oh, please. Here comes Bill. Can't your questions wait until tomorrow morning? There'll be time for us to talk when he's working in the store.
All right, I can wait.
Yes, sir, son. It really is going to be a blizzard. Just look at that snow come down.
Yes.
Your tea will be ready in a moment, Sergeant.
The storm grew wilder as darkness fell that night. But even so, King found the Morgans' living quarters too hot, and he asked to be let out. The sergeant turned him into the run with the other dogs, and King burrowed down in the snow to sleep. It was after midnight when he woke up for the first time. He could hardly see the figure moving toward the forest through the falling snow, but he knew it was the girl. He barked once or twice, and then he fell asleep again. Half an hour later, he was wakened again. This time, it was by the dog, the white dog he had seen at the edge of the clearing. The dog was asking him to follow him, running a few steps toward the forest and then barking an invitation. There was a warning of danger in the white dog's barking, and instantly King thought of the girl. Was she in some danger? If that were true, then the sergeant should be told about it. The fence of the run wasn't high, and King scrambled over it on his first attempt. He ran to the back door of the post and started scratching at it. The white dog seemed to realize he was getting help and stood motionless in the middle of the clearing. At last, the door opened.
What is it, King?
Sergeant, is Carol out there?
No.
She's gone. Carol! Sergeant, what could have happened to her? Where could she have gone?
Perhaps King knows.
Ah, there's another dog out there.
Yes, the white Siberian. Get into your clothes and come with me.
Right.
5 minutes later, the sergeant and Bill were following King across the clearing. Whitey kept 100 feet ahead, and as the two men plunged into the forest, the sergeant told Bill about Scar's murder and the reason for his trip from Dawson.
You don't think that Carol had anything to do with this killing, do you?
I think she knows more about it than she told me this afternoon.
Did she run away?
No, not that, Bill.
Oh, what then? Why would she leave the post in the middle of the night, in the middle of a storm? Where could she be going?
Whitey's showing us. What's in this direction?
There's an old cabin about a mile from here, Sergeant. Nobody lives in it.
Have been any strangers around the post lately?
No. Of course, I wasn't there for a couple of hours this afternoon.
Huh?
Strangers? I don't get it. What would strangers have to do with Carol?
Strangers to you, but not to her.
I don't understand.
Well, I've been looking for Carol ever since the night of the murder. There may have been someone who found out where she'd gone before I did. Someone who was afraid of what she could tell me, and it might be to the interest of that person to
keep her from talking.
Yes.
But she wouldn't go out into the night to meet somebody like that.
We'll soon find out.
The men could no longer see the white Siberian, but King kept them on his trail. And finally, they saw a faint glow ahead of them.
That must be the cabin. A light in it.
Yes. As they neared the edge of the clearing in which the cabin stood, Whitey began to bark. A moment later, the door swung open and Carol ran out.
Carol!
Almost immediately, the figure of a man loomed up in the lighted doorway. A gun flashed in his hand. The sergeant drew, but before he could fire, Whitey had thrown himself at the man in the doorway. A shot rang out and the dog dropped to the ground. Before the man could fire again, the sergeant's gun spoke. The man clutched his arm and slammed the door of the cabin. Carol had reached the cover of the trees and ran into Bill's arms.
Oh, honey, are you all right?
Yes. Poor Whitey, you tried to stop Joe from shooting.
Joe, Carol?
You know him. He worked for Blackjack.
Who else is in that cabin?
Blackjack and Red Barker.
Oh, why were you there?
Joe stopped me at the post this afternoon. He said that I had to come out here and have a talk with Blackjack.
But, Carol, why didn't
you... I know I should have told the sergeant. I shouldn't have come, but they said they'd kill you.
It's time you told me everything, Carol.
I saw them kill Scar.
Where and when?
That night in Dawson. It was while I was out in back of the cafe, just after I was waiting for him. I looked up at the window of Blackjack's office, and I saw the shadows of two men. I saw the shadow of the knife.
You saw the shadow, so you didn't really see.
In 30 minutes, every one of them had qualified for the vaccine over a month ago, but never got it. Sadly, all of them now have severe. Please do not hesitate. When it's your chance, it may be your last. And so, Peter, forgive me if I sound a little harsh, but this is what motivates me.
False
scarcity. To say what I said. I just want you to live.
Presented as a miracle, and you got so much. Now all of a sudden, it's hard to get, and the price went up.
China really sort
of let the white boy set up the drug
in May, June of last year, and things in the past 6 months have been fantastic for South African exports.
I dare you to do it.
We're up by about 30 to 40% in the past 6 months. Very strong growth in all categories, actually, in China. And the future looks bright for 2021.
Is there a particular type of wine that they love? Are they more for the red, more for the white? Is it, Cabernet Sauvignon, what of the South African version? What exactly is it that the Chinese love to drink?
I mean, I think that the China, one of the most exciting things about the Chinese market is it's so dynamic. I think 10 years ago, there were perhaps only 10 million consumers of imported wine in China. Now there's approximately 60 million. 5 or 10 years ago, 95%
were allowed to
import was still in red.
There were no money.
Now it's about.
Jar was enough to send the snow falling to the ground.
Red, hear that? Behind us, shoot!
One of the bullets nicked the tree behind which the sergeant had taken cover. He had placed the gun flashes accurately, and as soon as the volley ended, he fired in return. There was a cry of pain, and then Blackjack's voice shouting his surrender.
Don't shoot anymore. I dropped my gun.
Blackjack?
Yeah.
What about Joel?
You've got him. He's done for.
Stand right where you are. Come on, King. Another pair of handcuffs were slapped on Blackjack's wrists. The sergeant knelt beside Joe.
Sergeant, we didn't know it was you.
You thought it was Bill Morgan.
That's right.
And you fired at Carol as she was running away from the cabin.
Oh, that was Joe. And he's the one who killed Scar. He's dead, isn't he?
No, he'll live to hang.
Sergeant, I swear I had nothing to do with any of it.
We'll see what the jury has to say about that. Go on, head for the cabin. I'll put a bandage on Joe there. Bill Morgan left his wife at the post and then hurried back through the forest to the trapper's cabin. When he opened the door, he saw Blackjack and Red Barker sitting on a bench, their hands handcuffed behind them. Joe was lying on the floor, his chest and arm bandaged with his own shirt.
You captured them all, Sergeant.
Yes, Bill.
Good work.
Keep
What do you
uniforms clean.
Oh, that's Whitey lying on your park. I thought they got him.
Bullet just grazed his head. He'll live, Bill. Come here and say hello to him.
Sure. Hello there, Whitey. He doesn't look scared at all.
I think King's been telling him there's no reason to be afraid. We'll take him back to the post as soon as I finish with this bandage. By the time he's well, he'll accept it as his home.
Are you telling the truth? Did that mutt bring you after Carol?
He certainly did, Gannon. You made a great mistake when you turned him into an enemy.
Whitey, you'll always be grateful for what you did tonight.
He's a good dog, Bill. Good dog, boy. From now on, you'll be well treated. You'll find there are people you can love, and people who will love you, fella. As for the others, well, 3 of them will never be able to hurt you again.
Never's a long time, Sergeant.
You're going to find that out, Gannon. All 3 of you will stand trial as soon as we get back to Dawson. And there can only be one verdict. You're through. This case is closed.
They said the barometer, the air pressure was falling. That shit says it's rising. Environment Canada said...
In just a moment, Sergeant Preston will give you a preview of Friday's adventure. Picture yourself up there in the Yukon with Sergeant Preston, slugging it out with desperados with your bare fists. Think of Sergeant Preston's great strength and stamina.
Think of the
and the strength
Duramax
you would
diesel,
need in
the
those
Allison
fights.
8-speed transmission.
Then ask yourself this question. Am I eating a good bodybuilding breakfast every morning? Remember, when you include Quaker Puff wheat or Quaker Puff rice, you get added food values of restored natural grain amounts of vitamin B1, niacin, and iron. And what a delicious way to
You don't
get
know the
such
poverty
good
they were
nourishment.
marketing this into.
There's tempting nut-like
Sheer
flavor
poverty
and
they were
tender
marketing this
crispness
into.
in every mouth-watering spoonful, topped with milk or cream and
Less
fruit.
than a penny a
Try it
serving.
tomorrow. They're always a treat. Quaker puffed rice and Quaker puffed wheat. Never sold in bags or bulk. Listen Friday when Sergeant Preston and Yukon King meet the challenge of the Yukon in the case
Uncle
of
Ben's
wolf
beans
cub.
or whatever.
King and I found a helpless wolf.
Ingredients,
Turned it
white
over to a
beans,
boy named
and
Joey
color.
Sparks. He raised it as a pet. Later, when the wolf was full grown, he went back to the wild, and Joey and I never expected to see him again. But he reappeared under thrilling and unusual circumstances. It happened in connection with a murder plot that placed both Joey and me in terrible danger. Be sure to hear this exciting adventure Friday. These radio dramas, a feature of the Challenge of the Yukon Incorporated, are created by George W. Trendle, produced by Trendle Campbell Enterprises, directed by Fred Flowerday.
Replace the queen. So what happens in an Indian jumping ant colony when the queen dies is that it triggers basically a large-scale brawl. And over half the colony starts fighting with each other. They duel with their antennae. And this giant fight can last almost a month long.
I love the phrase that you've used in some of your, what I've read about this, where you call it a tournament.
Yeah, it's a dominance tournament, exactly.
From what you found here, it's obviously something that's very different to what we've seen in the insect world before. In terms of the Indian ant, what will it mean, actually, the characteristics that you found? What makes it so special?
Yeah, so as I said, in most ants, they're not capable of this transition as adults to become a reproductive. So most worker ants, they don't have active ovaries, they can't mate, and they start out kind of in the nest and they take care of larvae, but then as they get older, they'll leave the nest and forage, and then that's it, then they die. But in the Indian jumping ant, if one of these ants wins a tournament, they join a group of reproductives in the colony, and while they look identical from the outside to their other worker ants, they undergo a complete transformation inside their bodies. And so their ovaries swell up to fill their entire abdomen. They shut down all their venom production because they never need to hunt again. And then one of the things that was known before we started the study actually was that their brain shrinks. So their brain shrinks by 20 to 25%. Which is just a massive loss of brain tissue.
This is Newsday.
Yeah, but that can mean anything. So you'll still hear this from adults that got rubber stamped past because they're baby boomers. They'll still insist your brain shrinks as you get older. And blah, 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 blah. It's not possible to grow new brain cells. Cannabis, chronic high doses of THC promote the growth of neurons, new neurons.
Go to kcrw.com/eclectic24 or stream.
Was it Dr. Chu? Professor Chu had one of the universities out west. I'm trying to remember it. It's Alberta, Winnipeg, fucking something like that.
Join the most popular Chinese language learning page on Facebook by searching for CRI Learn Chinese. It's a quick yet fun way to achieve your language goals. Start your free lessons now with unlimited videos, photos, and text tutorials on expressions and Chinese culture. CRI Learn Chinese Facebook page. The world opens with
Takeaway Chinese. Takeaway Chinese.
You're listening to China Plus Radio, connecting you with China and...
Do your thing, Chomo. Every hour on there, that's your thing. Anti-military, anti-drug. Keep it up, Chomo. Jesus. I don't know how we turned off the radio. I don't know how we turned off the alarm. It's been on the screen for 2 full fucking minutes, so we know you're fucking around.
To less than 70 tons of products last year, up to the China-Europe Agreement on Geographical Indication force in March. Orders from...
That's the way to prove you're not on the internet looking for children to exploit, is to constantly hack webcams and harass anybody that's pieces of shit like you somewhere else.
You're listening to China Plus Radio, connecting you with China and the world.
Now the news. I'm Shane Bickman. Chinese government's passed a draft regulation to provide rule of law safeguards for developing market entities and boost fair competition. The draft is detailed unified measures on the registration of companies, individually owned businesses, and farmer cooperatives. More than 60 million new market entities were added during the country's 13th five-year plan, helping to create numerous jobs. A state council meeting chaired by Premier Li Keqiang says China will continue to deepen its reforms, seeking to streamline administration, delegate power, and upgrade services. U.S. Special Presidential Envoy John Kerry is visiting China. He'll hold talks with his Chinese counterpart Xie Zhenhua in Shanghai. A statement from the Chinese Foreign Ministry says the two sides are expected to exchange views on climate change cooperation, as well as the 2021 UN Climate Change Conference, which will be held in Glasgow this November. John Kerry's visit in China will last until Saturday. The world's largest radio telescope is being planned for Australia. The Square Kilometre Array project will be built in the state of Western Australia. The project will include a supercomputing centre to be based in Perth to process what's expected to be an unprecedented amount of data that will be generated by the radio telescope. The SKA is a collaboration between 16 countries. Global construction is due to begin in the second half of this year, with work at the site in Western Australia to commence early next year. The International Atomic Energy Agency chief is urging transparency as Japan's decision on nuclear wastewater sparks international backlash. Director General Rafael Mariano Grossi says when the wastewater is released, it should cause no harm to the environment. Grossi says Japan's neighboring countries and also local people in Japan, such as fishermen, are all very concerned. He says the IAEA will cooperate with Japan with professional work organized before, during, and after the controlled release of treated water into the ocean. U.S. President Joe Biden's announced the withdrawal of all American troops from Afghanistan by September the 11th. Biden says the United States will continue to support the Afghan government and provide assistance to the Afghan military after the withdrawal. He also voiced U.S. support for the peace talks between the Afghan government and the Taliban, facilitated by the United Nations. Washington correspondent Giles Gibson reports.
There was clear symbolism in this announcement. The US launched its invasion of Afghanistan after the 9/11 attacks in 2001. Now US President Joe Biden.
What is it for them to go?
Well, what do they do? How do they stay alive?
Many of them don't. Yes, sir?
The gentleman from the States.
Oh, yes, sir, Mr. Dollar.
Would you send him in, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Grover is ready to speak with you.
Thank you. Hartford, Connecticut, eh? Sounds foreign. I suppose it would. It's a pleasure, Mr. Dollar. Grover. Insurance investigation, eh? Yes, sit down. Well, I don't suppose my problem will seem very important out here. Yeah, I was thinking the very same thing. It's always the case. On the fringe of war, very few individual problems are important. Nor are the individuals themselves. I trust you will keep that in mind while you are here. Now then, what is your errand? The Trans-Pacific Import-Export Company. Oh, yes. Will Meadows' firm on the mainland, destroyed by fire last month. 100%, according to the claim he sent the company that hired me. $200,000. Do you know this William Meadows? I've met him at the American Club now and again. The company isn't satisfied with the report on the cause of that fire. It was blamed on vandalism. Vandalism has become quite a popular pastime across in Kowloon, especially. I take it you suspect fraud. Trans-Pacific had a branch in Shanghai. When the war closed in on them up there, the same thing happened. They came out far better by collecting on the insurance than they would have by standing the expense of liquidating. I suppose coincidence won't quite do, will it? What do you want from this office, Dollar? Oh, I'd appreciate some phone calls or letters that would get me some support from the fire brigade and the police. So we're back to the individual problem. Yeah, but I'll do the best I can. Thank you, Mr. Grover. I won't take up any more of your time. Let me know how you make out. Have you found a place to stay? No, not yet. Well, don't bother with the accidental places they're jammed. But speak with my receptionist, Mr. Vedras. Yeah, I saw on the way in. Vedras? I thought she was Chinese. Half. Her father is Portuguese. He has accommodations about halfway up the peak on Sing Wong.
The girls like that around here. I know where she lives.
Oh, good. I'll ask her. And thanks again. Oh, Dollar, just a matter of interest. The case in Shanghai. You say the insurance company was forced to meet the claim there? That's right. The investigator they sent over was killed before he could build a case. Oh. They blamed his death on war conditions, too. Said he was robbed and knifed by starving refugees. Nobody had time to dig up the truth. Sing Wong is a street of steps that climb from the waterfront to the plush European residences on top of Victoria Peak. My accommodations were a room that looked out on an alley, an iron bed, a chair, and a pitcher of water on a bamboo table. There were no other non-Orientals in the building, but I seemed to be the only one that noticed it. I was suffering from a sort of claustrophobia and loneliness that night.
Why would they know?
And at first, I was glad to learn it was she who knocked at my door.
If you are comfortable.
Oh, thank you, I am. Now, this is fine. Oh, I don't have much to offer you. Cigarette? Scotch?
No, thank you. I came because I am curious.
I'm in Hong Kong on business, if that's what you mean. It's better kept confidential right now.
Is it dangerous in this business?
Why do you ask that?
Because you are followed here. You are being watched.
How do you know?
Oh, I know this street. I've seen this man. He has not been here before.
Where is he?
Maybe you can see him from the window.
Wait a minute. You tell me where he is. I'll look.
Shop on the other side. There are boxes piled near the door.
Well, thanks for telling me about him.
Do you know who he is?
No, I didn't think anybody knew I was in town. Let's talk about something else. What is that music?
Oh, it is a love song. There's about two lonely people who meet near a river.
Oh, in America they're different.
Yes, I know. I like them.
You know many Americans?
Yes, I want to marry one.
The lucky American.
Oh, no, I don't mean there's only one. I want to marry an American who will take me from China. There's no other way.
You hate it that much?
There's nothing else to do but hate it. There's no good here, always trouble. Chinese are very patient people, but I am not all Chinese. I can't make myself be patient any longer. I want to go.
Get it.
What about your Portuguese people?
They're gone. You think I am bad to be this way? Honestly,
I didn't say that.
I am not bad.
I hope you find your American, Miss Faders.
You want me to go now?
I think you'd better. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes. Good night.
Three things interfered with sleep that night. The watcher who was still at a station across the street when I turned out my light, the pleading in the eyes of the girl, and the smells and sounds that drifted into me from the restless, crowded city. It was 4 a.m. before I dropped off, and at 10 I was walking up the gravel drive that led to the residence of Mr. William Meadows. The watcher had changed, but I was still being followed.
Oh, yes, sir.
Is Mr. Meadow at home?
Oh, yes, sir. You give them.
Who is it, Liv? My name is Dollar, Mr. Meadow. I'm from Corinthian Liability, Hartford office.
Well, so they sent another snoop. Let him in, Lim.
You come in.
What did you say your name was?
Dollar?
What's the matter with that company, anyway?
This doesn't have to be unpleasant, Mr.
They
Meadow.
sit back there in Hartford with nothing to worry about but Sunday's golf game. They don't know anything about the conditions we're working under.
They do know that your fire here pretty much follows the pattern of the one in Shanghai.
Of course it does. The conditions are the same.
Including the starving refugees who killed and robbed the investigator?
Careless people are dying here every day. Now say what you have to say to me and get out of here.
Well, it's very little. I came here to get my reaction to you. I have. You jumped to the conclusion you were under suspicion before I got through the door. You're on the defensive, so you must have a reason to be. And more important, you are having me followed, so you must be afraid of me.
Have your dreams, Dollar, but have them someplace else. Now get out of here. Go snoop through the ashes. They're cold.
Expense account item 2, approximately $4 American taxi and rickshaw fares. Legwork is strenuous enough in a familiar city. In Hong Kong, it took me the whole afternoon to locate 3 people who had worked in the office of the Trans-Pacific Company. The first was Franklin Abbott, accountant. Please find enclosed transcript of a statement signed before witnesses.
Well, I didn't give a thought to how it started, to tell you the truth. I just went to work one morning and there it was, ashes.
Well, had they made any preparations for going out of business?
No,
How about the rest of the firms in that section?
it was all closing. We might just as well have. There wasn't no trade.
But still, they haven't moved any of their merchandise out.
That's right. The storehouse was full.
I suppose your books were destroyed, too?
Oh, yes, sir. Everything went. It must have been a vicious blaze.
Well, how about the other companies? Any of them burned out?
No. Huh. I haven't thought of that.
Yeah?
The other storehouses over there, the empty ones. There wasn't no vandals burning them. The people broke in and lived in them.
Separately, the other enclosed statements aren't very strong evidence either. The night watchman who was discharged just before the night of the fire, and the clerk who had seen William Meadow burning a confidential memo from Trans-Pacific's head office in San Francisco. But with the three together in my hand, I could begin to see a case building against them. I was dog-tired that night when I climbed the steps of my Sing-Wong Street to my hotel. What are you doing in here?
Oh, nothing wrong. I came to wait for you.
Why?
Because I am curious. Because I thought of you today. I wondered where you were and what you thought, because I was so bold last night.
I've been busy.
You didn't think?
Yes, I thought.
She's still watching?
A different one, but still watching.
Are you frightened?
I don't know. It's nerve-wracking. I've been followed all day.
Are you a criminal?
No. But you're right, I'm acting like one. Because I feel uneasy in your city. And I'm trying to do a job another man tried to do in Shanghai and got himself killed.
I will not ask any more.
If that hadn't happened, I could take you someplace tonight, be with people. I can't take a chance. I have to stay here in my room and hide.
Oh, I don't want to go anywhere.
Because if I can keep myself alive, I might be able to save $250,000 for a company with $50 million in declared assets. Now let's talk about you. I'm glad you waited for me. I think the toughest part of the case was the memory of the murder of that other insurance investigator in Shanghai. It made every group of Hong Kong Chinese potential assassins and every doorway a potential ambush. Gathering the actual evidence was almost easy. The next afternoon, with a supervisor from one of the fire brigades, I went to the scene of the fire on the outskirts of Kowloon.
Actually, Mr. Dollar, under the present circumstances here in China, arson can hardly be classed as crime. In the face of war, destruction of material is a common defensive maneuver.
I see what you mean.
Unless, of course, criminal intent can be proved. And even then, with an American firm, it's rather awkward.
The prosecution will be up to you people. What I want is evidence that'll stand up in court against their claim in the company. How do you think the fire started?
Inside the structure, without a doubt. And by means of apparatus one would hardly find in the possession of common bandits.
What?
Timing devices. You have proof of this? We recovered fragments, yes.
Or could I get photographs of these things and sworn statements from you?
Yes, certainly. It's a pleasure to be of service to you.
Expense account item 3, approximately $45 American. A case of scotch in lieu of payment for the photo lab and clerical work the supervisor and his men did for me. By the time we were through, the company at least was protected. Pictures and photostats of all the statements had been posted to the Hartford office. It was well after 9 that night when I started to climb toward the hotel, and I noticed that for the first time since I checked in, I wasn't being followed. I took it for a good omen until I got there and saw the man who should have been following me standing inside the door.
I said I'll stay away from American men. I know good for her, but she don't listen. She goes to him last night. She waits for him.
Quiet down, quiet down.
There he is.
Hey, just quiet down, I said.
What's this? What are you doing out in the open? Did you lose me?
Constable Pride, Hong Kong police. There's been trouble here, Mr. Dollar.
Police? What happened?
His daughter's been killed. Shot. She's in your room.
One of your longtime mystery favorites, Philip Marlowe, is now heard on CBS on Friday nights. Philip Marlowe, Up for Parole, and Songs for Sale.
When it comes to greenhouse gases. Anyway, they're sitting down to talk about climate change and the action needed to curb emissions. To find out what we can expect, let's talk to Alex Wolf, who's head of the Asia Investment Strategy at JP Morgan Private Bank. Good morning to you, Mr. Wolf.
Staffing at many hospitals is barely holding up. Nurses at the point of exhaustion.
I'll tell you, we're stretched. We're really stretched, and I'm very concerned about what the next, not only few days, but weeks will bring.
The waves of the COVID pandemic can be seen in hospitalizations and in ICU cases. The previous peak in mid-January saw 1,700 hospitalized in Ontario and 400 seriously ill in ICUs. The third wave has come with even more force. Hospitalizations reaching 1,877 today, and ICU cases have more than doubled in the last month to stand at 642, and this wave has not crested yet. But the complex environment of an ICU cannot be expanded instantly, and neither can staff be trained overnight.
6 years for selling 2 joints.
Worked in ICU.
Why couldn't we have been here? Just 15 minutes. Too late to bother yourself with what might have happened. Besides, it's not the same as it would have been if she was a British national.
Oh, shut up.
I beg your
Take me down to your lieutenant or superintendent or whoever he is. I'll make my statement of him.
Yes? Oh, it's you, Crane. Good evening, sir. This is the American chap, Mr. Dollar.
Oh, yes. Superintendent Clyde. Pleasure to meet you, sir. Thank you. I want to make a statement on the Vadras shooting.
Vadras? I don't think it's got to you yet, sir. What with all of them these days? A Chinese girl. Fathers are Portuguese.
I see. You're in possession of information pertaining to this case, Mr. Dollar? Information? I know who's guilty. I'm not sure who fired the gun, but an American national named William Meadow is guilty. Now, don't stop me. She was killed in my room. She was killed because she was mistaken for me. I've been here 3 days collecting evidence of attempted insurance fraud against Meadow, and that's why she was killed, because they mistook her for me. He's got to be arrested tonight. Good Lord, sir. I can't place a man under arrest on the basis of a statement like that. Certainly not an American. I have proof of a motive. Here. The evidence of fraud is right there. Photograph statements. Look at them.
Beg your pardon, sir. It was a Chinese girl who was killed.
By mistake. Rather difficult to prove, I'm afraid. She was in my room. My dear chap, do you have proof that this Meadow fellow knew where you lived? Which room was yours?
Oh, how do you prove things like that?
Unfortunately, there are certain niceties of jurisprudence which we must respect. Right or wrong, sir, I'm convinced of your sincerity, and I appreciate it.
That's good. Could you help me look up the phone number of Mr. Grover's home? I have to see him.
Yes, Constable Crane will help you and see you safely there.
This way, sir?
Yeah. Mr. Dollar, your evidence. You've forgotten it.
If it's too weak to make you believe me, I don't need it anymore. Here we are, sir. Will he be with Mr. Grover long?
I don't know.
I'll wait in the car and get a breath of air. Beastly hot tonight. Oh, come in. Dreadful news. You heard that? Yes. Terrible shock. Come in here. I'll pour you a brandy. Did you hear about my part of it? No, just a bad tale. The father was hysterical. Oh, I tell you, Mr. Grover, this thing is driving me crazy. It's my fault she's dead. Here you are, my boy. We got to know each other pretty well during those 2 days. I don't know quite how it happened. This has been a bad job for the nerves, but I know what happened to the man in Shanghai. She was there, and I got there yesterday after a bad day. I didn't know who was following me. I guess I needed somebody to be with, so she stayed for a while. Tonight, she was waiting for me in the room. That's why she was killed. They thought it was me. You're sure of this? I'm positive. As sure as if I'd had a camera on the whole thing, but I
I can't move the police. It's not enough. They have to be cautious. Look, something's got to be done. I can't have it left like this. I can't come into a life for 2 days and be responsible for a death and then see nothing done.
I'm afraid it's too late to accomplish anything tonight. In the morning when our thinking...
Look, stop it, will you? You're not going to tell me to go back to that room.
Sorry. You see, I at least am muddled. Of course, you can stay here.
Oh, I didn't mean that. I'd rather try to think this thing out by myself. How can I get rid of that constable? I'm liable to kill him if I hear any more of his cheery words of sympathy.
Where are you going?
No place, just war.
I'll let you out by the rear door. You want to rest? Please come back here.
All right,
I will. And please, be careful. It's not too wise to be on the streets at night anymore.
It's a picture I'll never walk out of my mind. The girl who had wanted to leave China, lying with her head on one arm, as though she were asleep. I don't think I knew I would when I left Grover, but I did go back to the hotel and into the room. Her body was gone. There were chalk marks on the floor where she lay. I transferred an automatic from my luggage to a coat pocket. Then I walked some more. Meadow?
Oh, who is it?
Mr. Dollar, I was here yesterday. Let me in.
You wait. Oh, hello, Mr. Meadow, he's not here. Oh, now please, you wait, he's not here.
Close the door.
Mr. Meadow, he's not here.
Meadow!
Not here. You come back.
Where is he?
He said he come back 2-3 days.
I gotta find him. If you know where he is, tell me.
No, he come back.
Listen, I don't want to hurt you. You understand?
Oh, do not hurt.
But I will hurt if I don't find out where he is. It's important.
All right. He go Cologne.
Then you go with me. If he's not there, then I hurt. I've got to find him. Where is he?
All right, I tell you. Repulse Bay.
What?
Repulse Bay.
Repulse Bay. On the other side of the island. Where the big hotel is?
Oh, yes. He's there.
I can call there on the telephone?
Oh, yes.
Is he at the hotel?
No. He has to cut it. Number 7. Last one.
Where's the telephone?
Oh, please. You not tell her you learn it there. Oh, cut it once.
Hong Kong Police. I want to talk to the superintendent.
Yes, sir. Superintendent Clyde?
Will you believe a confession from William Meadow?
What? Who's this? Mr. Dollar?
He's at Repulse Bay, Cottage 7. I'm going after him. If you want that confession, have some men there. Outside in an hour. And quiet until it's finished.
Dollar!
The taxi got me there in 40 minutes. And I was a few yards in front of his cottage when the police car slid without lights and cut him open. Meadow? Meadow! Who is it? It's Dollar. Who the devil are you? Dollar! Is that hard to believe? That was somebody else in the hotel room. I want you to go back into town with me. Will you come out or shall I come in? Meadow? Meadow. I don't suppose it could be called hewing to the niceties of jurisprudence. Since Meadow was dead, he could neither speak nor write his confession. But there were 2 police carloads of expert witnesses who took the fact that he had opened fire as an acceptable admission of guilt. The same thing cleared me legally on the grounds of self-defense. I had hoped that it would help clear my mind, but it hasn't. Nothing good came out of the assignment except saving your company some money that it didn't know it had. Expense account item 4, same as item 1. Expense account total, $3,544. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd and David Ellis, with music composed and conducted by Leith Stevens. Edmund O'Brien may currently be seen starring in the Columbia Pictures production 711 Ocean Drive. Featured in tonight's cast were Tudor Owen, Lillian Baya, Hy Averback, Robert Griffin, Hal March, and Dan O'Herlihy. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle.
Chinese people, isn't it?
Join us again next week at this same time when, from Hollywood, Edmund O'Brien returns in another transcribed adventure of
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Mutual.
Hollywood Theater. Mystery.
So let's just make sure that we're clear on that. The federal government is finally helping Air Canada with a multi-billion-dollar aid package. Mike Armstrong looks at what the airlines now are agreeing to do and what it means for travelers. Plus, Ann Gaviola explains why Air Canada is the first Canadian airline to get financial aid and the likelihood of taxpayer dollars being repaid back.
You remember Air America?
It was news. Some were desperately waiting to hear. People who forked out hundreds or even thousands of dollars for trips on Air Canada only to have them
is no longer a vague, shadowy possibility, says General George C. Marshall. The United States government has requested that the Red Cross again become the official agency for collecting blood for the armed forces, when and wherever needed. Dr. Eugene Adashek, medical director of the Los Angeles Regional Blood Service, voices the plea of the civilian doctor when he says, increasing quantities of blood must be made available for doctors to use in civilian practice. Red Cross can handle collection, processing, and distribution of blood, but you control the source. So call your Red Cross and make a date to give a pint of blood. Make a date to save a life.
A pint? In the UK, I can donate blood, and they will give it to people who do not have sickle cell. Right. I can help people who don't have sickle cell, and people who don't have sickle cell can. So I don't need transfusions yet, and I probably won't take them if I have any say in the matter. There's no point in me donating blood in this country. There's no point in me donating blood if you can help people that don't have sickle cell. Go fuck yourself.
You're listening to Chin Radio AM 1540, the voice of multicultural Toronto, bringing you the latest updates on COVID-19. Stay informed, stay safe, and stay tuned to Chin Radio AM 1540.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. Dragnet is brought to you by Chesterfield. Made by Liggett and Myers. First major tobacco company to give you a complete line of quality
so much
cigarettes.
that people comment about my chain smoking is telling you these are fucking dope edibles.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned a robbery
I'm
detail.
glad they all fucking
A
died
gang
of
of
throat
truck
and lung
hijackers
cancer.
has been working in your
Fucking
city.
deserve it.
They've stolen 14 loaded trucks. They've kidnapped and beaten one of the drivers. There's no clue to their identity. Your job?
That's how you get the fucking fence involved.
With the winter season coming on, young America and all of us will be concentrating on our favorite winter sports.
Hockey, right?
Ice skating, bowling, basketball, skiing. One thing you'll notice, whatever young America does, wherever it goes, Chesterfield goes along. Yes, Chesterfield is the choice of young America.
It's the second lowest cost entry sport there is. The first one's soccer.
Everywhere. People are
Basketball is, in fact, an indoor sport, winter sport. It was invented in Canada in the winter.
Learning that Chesterfield is really mild, really satisfying. How about it, friends? Change to Chesterfield yourself. Smoke America's most popular two-way cigarette. Regular and king-size Chesterfield.
I was going to light
Best
this anyway.
for you.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Wednesday, June 4th. It was warm in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out a robbery detail. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Chief of Detective Stat Brown. My name's Friday. We were on the way out from the office, and it was 9:47 a.m. when we got to the county hospital. Ward 419. Hi. Mr. Gilmore? Yeah. I know you guys? No, sir. We're police officers. This is my partner, Frank Smith. My name's Friday. I do. Hello. A couple of stools over there. Drag them up. Sit down. I'll get them. Here you go. Thanks. How do you feel, Mr. Gilmore? Rough. Real rough. Feel like I've ridden 50 miles in the back of a ready-mix cement truck. Weren't for the pills they'd be giving me, I think I'd go off my rocker. You want to tell us what happened? Yeah, as much as I can remember. Only goes so far, then there's a room full of black. If you'll tell us what you can, please. Yeah. Yesterday, that's when it was. Yes, sir. Yesterday morning. I checked in for work. Had a load I was going to take over to Phoenix. Supposed to shove off about 10:15. Did you know what you were carrying? Yeah. I saw the way bill. Some of the stuff they were loading. Used furniture. Didn't make any difference to me. They load the truck and I'll drive it. Uh-huh. I went across the street. Little coffee place over there. Got my vacuum bottle filled and came back. By that time, they had the truck loaded. I signed the way bill in the office and went out and got into the truck. The two guys are waiting for me. They were in the cab of the truck? Yeah, sitting there, kind of scrunched down so you couldn't even see it from the outside. Yes. As soon as I opened the door, one of them had a gun pointed at me. Told me to get into the truck like there was nothing wrong. Just start the motor and get the truck away from me. Did they get out of the truck at that time? No, they were waiting for me when I got there. They told me to drive away, and I did. Wasn't going to mess around with them having a gun. Yeah, go ahead. I only drove about 3 blocks, and he told me to pull into an alley just off of Santa Fe. Santa Fe and what, do you remember? By Porter Street, between Porter and Enterprise. I see. Like,
I would have slammed that shit into the nearest police station. Fuck you,
I did. They made me get out of the truck, took me around back and broke the seal and told me to get inside. And that's what you did. Officer, if they'd have told me to jump off the city hall, I'd have gone ahead and done it, but that gun pointed at me. I'm a coward. Fellow waves a gun around and I'm going to do just like he tells me. Yes. Those guys are mean, you could tell.
Well, that's not a weakness. If you know that about yourself, that's not a weakness.
I could tell about those fellas real plain. Student of what? Chronology. You know, bumps on the head. They all mean something. Of course, I didn't get a chance to make a good examination of these guys, but I could see it. Real criminal heads. Bumps told me so. One fellow had a head that was one of the worst I'd ever seen. Yes, sir. He was mean to his mother, I could tell. Had a bump right here. Yeah, you see? Yeah. He was mean to his mother. Yes, sir. Well, what happened after they tied you up? Just left me there. I see. You want to go on? Yeah. They must have drove for about 20 minutes when they stopped. Pulled in some sort of a driveway. I figure that. Well, right after they stopped, they made a half U-turn, then backed up. Backed up this ramp. Steep. And they stopped and took me out of the truck. Blindfolded me and made me get out of the truck. Now, this place where they stopped, that's where they unloaded the furniture, did they? Yeah.
Must have taken it out of there. I heard them thumping around on the truck. Sounded like they were unloading it.
Well, now, what'd they do after they got all the furniture out?
Put me back in, drove out to where you found the truck. After they both climbed into the back, beat me up. Don't remember much after that.
Mm-hmm. Both of them worked you over, huh?
Yeah. Both of them got in their licks. Especially the one who was mean to his mother. He was vicious. He was mean. They kept hitting me with their fists until I just passed out. I don't remember anything after that till I came through in the back of the truck. That's when I called the cops and the guys in uniform came out. I guess they're the ones who called you.
Yes, sir. Now, is there any way that you might be able to tell us where they took you?
You mean when they unloaded the furniture?
Yes, sir.
Well, I think maybe I got an idea. I tried to figure out how fast they was driving. And after you've been a driver for a while, you get to know. I'd say they was going about 20 miles an hour. We were still in town. My own guess is that they went out Alameda. Must have gone out Santa Fe and then turned on to Alameda.
Mm-hmm.
I remember hearing kids yelling. That'd probably be Santa Fe High School.
Yeah.
I guess we went out Alameda to maybe 43rd or 44th and they turned right. Kind of hard to figure it then. The truck got tied up in traffic. It was hard to tell if they were stopping for that or it was just at a light. But I'd say that they went out to about Avalon. You know. Maybe they went up to San Pedro. I don't think so. I'd say Avalon. Then they turned left and headed for Hawthorne. Not sure how far they went, but I figure maybe around Rosecrans, and then they turned a couple more times and they stopped and drove up that steep ramp.
Mm-hmm. Now, you figure they ended up around Rosecrans and Avalon?
Yeah. Guess that's not much help, though. Huh?
Well, it gives us an idea where to start looking.
A couple other things that might help you.
What's that?
Well, it seems that when we started to back up the ramp, I heard a bump, like they backed into a car. They didn't hit it hard, but I bet they did hit a car.
Yeah.
After that, they pulled the truck forward and stopped and backed up again. This time, they scraped into the side of a house. I could feel it run along the side of the truck. It sounded like they might have torn up some of the wood on the house.
Yeah.
Will that help any?
Yeah, sure. We'll have our crime lab check the truck and see if they can come up with anything.
Sure hope you can. You talked to my boss yet?
No, sir, but he's been notified. We understand.
I bet he's plenty sore about it.
Well, we wouldn't know about that, but he should understand that it wasn't your fault.
He should, but he won't. I know.
That right?
Yeah. He doesn't understand anything that doesn't go on his way. Spotted a mile off.
What's that, sir?
His head. All kinds of bumps.
I have a Victoria Cross in the back of my skull.
10:06 a.m. We continued to question the victim, Russell Gilmore. He gave us descriptions of the two men who kidnapped him. He also told us that at one time he heard one of the men call the other by the name Leo. Further, he told us that when the two bandits had taken him from the truck, they placed him in a garage. He was able to feel the wall. He said that he was sure it was a plaster wall, and as much as he could feel the studs and the wire holding the plaster. He said that at one time he heard a woman come out of a house and say something to the thieves while they unloaded the truck. He told us that the garage wasn't very large because there was no echo on the sounds that were made in the building. We called the office and got out a supplementary broadcast on the thieves carrying their description. 10:40 a.m. Frank and I left the county hospital and drove over to Central Station. We went up to the crime lab and talked to Ray Pinker.
On the right rear fender, we found evidence that the truck had hit a car. Looked at some paint chips. Got it here.
Looks like a blue car, huh?
Yeah. Check the paint with a Ditzer Production color book. Here, I'll show you. You got all the paints cataloged by color. Here. This is the one.
Yeah, but Ray, there are a lot of blues here. How can you be sure this is it?
Well, here. You see they got a color patch on each page in the book? Hole in the patch?
Oh, this little hole here, huh?
Mm-hmm. We'll just put this chip we lifted from the truck in the hole. Now lay it down. Get this lamp. There. Color matches. Get them the same light, you can see they're the same paint.
Huh. Look at that, Joe. Same. Yeah, I see. Well, what do we got out of it, Ray?
Car the truck hit was a 1953 Hudson Jet. It was a single-tone car. You know, the top color matches the body color.
Yeah.
You only use this on one-color cars unless you got a special order.
Did you find any house paint on the side of the truck?
Yeah. Over here. Might be able to do a little better on that for you. House the truck ran into is about 36 years old. Might be a little more than that, but it's right around there.
How did you come up with that?
Been painted 18 times. Figure once every 2 years, you come out with 36.
Yeah. How do we know it's been painted every 2 years?
We don't, Frank, just guessing. But the layers are painted pretty even.
Might indicate they did it regularly. You know, didn't let the paint go too far before they redid it.
Oh, yeah. Nobody ever washes the paint before they paint.
Here, I put one of them under the microscope.
They paint right over the dirt every time.
Here, take a look, Joe.
Okay.
You see okay?
I haven't got a... I'll adjust it. Yeah. I see what you mean.
Well, you notice the first coat was a cream white. And they stuck pretty much to that for the next half dozen paint jobs. Then they changed to a barn red.
Different owners.
Then to a green, then back to cream white. And that goes on for 3 layers, and then to the blue that's on it now.
That green is government green. It's on everything up here.
Is it the same one? It shouldn't be too hard. Aren't many of them around.
Well, how many?
Well, 18 coats would be 18 factorial. That's multiplying 18 times 17 times 16 times 15, so on to times 1. I got it worked out for you.
I hope you have. I'm not with you at all here.
Well, look. Works out to 1 in 6 quadrillion, 402 trillion, 373 billion, 705 million, 728,000 chances of finding its twin.
Oh, it's pretty long odds.
Well, if every man, woman, and child on the face of the earth owned 10 houses apiece, there wouldn't be another one like it.
$11:37 a.m. We put in a call to Leighton Prince. Harlan Stahl told us that his crew had gone over the truck thoroughly, but had failed to come up with anything. We contacted the stats office and asked them to make a run on the MO that the thieves had used. They told us that the results would be ready for us late in the afternoon. We contacted hit and run detail, but there'd been no report that could have been the car that the truck had hit. We went to the office and got a large map of the city. Then we drove out to the county hospital to talk to the victim again. We asked him to trace his movements while he'd been held prisoner in the back of the truck. He drew a line down Santa Fe Avenue, up to Alameda, then over to Avalon Boulevard on 43rd Street. From there, he traced the streets down to Rosecrans Avenue. He drew a circle on the map centered on the intersection of Rosecrans Avenue and Avalon Boulevard. He told us that we'd find the house we were looking for inside the circle. Before we left him, we made arrangements for the mugshots to be taken to the hospital for him to check for a possible identification of the suspect. 12:40 p.m. We contacted Records and Identification Division and asked them if they'd had any luck on running the name Leo. We were told that they had 3 possibles for us. The addresses on the packages were not in the area that had been circled by the victim, Russell Gilmore. We got in touch with Lieutenant Jack Smyers and filled him in on the developments. He called Metro Division and made arrangements for 3 additional teams of men to work with us in a search of the streets within the circle drawn by the victim. He also contacted the divisional commanders and asked for their cooperation. The men were instructed to find a residence with a steep driveway leading to a detached garage. The house would have a wooden porch on the right side of the house as it faced the street. It would be damaged to the wood on the porch. Also, there was a possibility that a Hudson automobile would be parked either in the driveway or on the street right next to it. The car would have some damage done to it. 5:15 p.m. Frank and I got back to the office from the search area.
Yeah, I'm sure tired.
I'm with you. A lot of streets out there.
Yeah, a lot of houses on the streets. I wonder how the guys from Metro are doing.
I don't know. I get it. Robbery Friday. Yep. Okay, just a minute. Let me get there. Yeah, okay. Hang on to it. We'll be right out. Right. Well, the Metro boys did some good. Huh? The house. They found it. The address given us on the phone was 1486 Cedar Street down in Compton. It took us 35 minutes to get out there from the city hall. The officers from Metro Division Reserve stood by until we got there. We found the house located on Cedar between Dwight Street and Tawada Avenue. It was a 1-story frame building with a stucco garage in the rear of the lot. On the left front side of the house was a wooden porch which had been scraped by some large object. Several of the pickets in the railing were broken. On the street in front of the house next door, we found a 1953 Hudson Jet painted a light blue. There was a dent in the left rear fender. We couldn't tell for certain, but the color of the car and the color of the paint on the porch seemed to match the chips that we'd seen in the crime lab. While the officers from Metro covered the rear of the building, Frank and I rang the front doorbell. There was no answer. We checked the garage, but we found nothing that would tie the house owners in with a robbery kidnapping. The interior walls of the garage were rough wooden studs. Between them, we could see chicken wire embedded in plaster. The physical description of the house, the ramp leading to the garage itself, and the car parked on the street matched in every detail the pictures we'd been given by the victim. 6:10 p.m. We got the name Conrad Lewis from the mailbox in front of the house, and while the officers from Metro checked it with our office, Frank and I went next door to talk with the neighbors.
Yeah?
What if we could talk to you, man?
Sure. Who are you?
Well, might be better if we got in off the porch.
You ain't coming in here unless I know who and what you are.
The police officer.
Oh?
Yes, ma'am. Here's our identification.
Oh, yeah. Well, come on in.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm Myrtle Richards.
This is my partner, Sergeant Friday. I'm Frank Smith.
Oh, how do you do?
How are you, ma'am?
You just sit down. I'll turn off the television.
Thank you.
Comedy.
Product
I've seen it before a couple of times. I always laugh at them again, though. They're funny.
Yes, ma'am.
Great boon to the people, television. This is only 12-inch, but I think maybe next year I'll get a bigger one, maybe even color. They got it now, you know. It's true color. It's beautiful.
Yes, ma'am.
Of course, I ain't actually seen it myself. I just read about it, you know. Beautiful. Well, I'm a great fan. I got it on all day, right from the early show to the late show. I understand next week one of them stations is going to start an early show. Now, that'll be nice, won't it?
Yes, ma'am, sure. I wonder if we could ask you a few questions.
Certainly. You just go right ahead.
That car out front, does that belong to you?
The blue one?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's mine. I just got it a few months ago. That's what you're here about, huh?
I beg your pardon?
About how somebody hit my car. Big dent. Isn't that what you're here for?
No, not exactly. Do you know who hit your car?
No. I wish I did. If I knew, I'd sue them. Imagine getting a car that's parked right at the curb and not leaving a note or something to say who did it. Person who ran into me must be insured. Wouldn't cost him nothing. All he had to do was leave a card.
Yes, ma'am.
That's not
when was the automobile hit?
Yesterday morning. I walked down to the market.
Most people think that's how it works. It's not how it works.
Things for dinner, pretzels, potato chips, things to eat while I watched the TV. When I got back, the dent was there. Did it while I was gone. Did it and didn't even leave a card.
Yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
It gets
Could you tell us
damaging
who
your
lives
own
next door to you,
property.
please?
Which side?
The left side over there.
Well, that's Lewis's house. Why are you asking about them?
How long have they lived there, do you know?
Yeah, I guess then about 10 years. They moved in right after Conrad. That's Mr. Lewis, right after he opened up a new store.
What line of business is he in?
Well, he got some kind of a shipping business. Has deals with different stores all over the state.
Did you see Mr. Lewis yesterday?
Yes. Matter of fact, I did. He come over like usual, 5:30.
He usually come over at that time, does he?
Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, yeah. You see, there's a TV show he likes to see. I watch it, but his wife don't care for it. She watches something else. So Conrad comes over here. He was here last night.
You see him during the day at all?
No, I didn't.
You know where they are tonight?
I'm not sure, but I think they went to the movies. Seems to me Mrs. Lewis said that her and Conrad was going to a show over in town.
That's probably for us. I'll get him.
I imagine so. Didn't anybody come calling on me this time of night?
Well, it's Henderson, Joe. I'll be right back.
All right. Have you noticed any trucks in the neighborhood lately, Mrs. Richards?
Oh, well, I'll have to think about that for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
You don't mean like the garbage can truck, do you?
No, ma'am. Large moving vans.
See the others quite a bit.
Yeah.
Can truck.
Well, now, let me see. Well, there was some people that just moved into a new house down the street. That was about a month ago. That in hell?
Well, thank you, Mrs. Richards.
Joe, see you in a minute.
Yeah. Excuse me, please, Mrs. Richards.
Yeah, you go right ahead.
Yeah.
Henderson ran the name Conrad Lewis through the files.
Mm-hmm.
He's been convicted for armed robbery.
You are listening to Dragnet, the authentic story of your police force in action. Smokers by the thousands are now changing to Chesterfield because they're learning the facts about Chesterfield. Facts like these. A doctor has been examining
them at the discount price. In the U.S., they have discount tobacco.
Hundreds of hours into it because of how relaxing it is to play.
All we have up here is
Okay,
Canadian
well, we got a
blend
text
or
message from
Virginia
Scott
blend.
in Calgary. Says, I am so hooked on a game called Stardew Valley right now on Xbox. Uno. Such a great escape.
It might be criminal, as the official said. Prime Minister Uhuru Muhammadu visited the place and expressed the government compassion to the families of the diseased children. Niger has already been confronted to children death at school, but not too much to that extent. This time is a very sorrowful period and a tragedy for Niger.
Very much.
And let's remember that.
What about these classrooms? Tell us a little bit more about them. We know that some of the smaller children just couldn't run out because they just were too small to do so. Straw hut classrooms. Is there concerns that really they shouldn't be using that sort of classrooms?
Well, it's true that after this fire, anger came up in the country against this kind of classrooms made of straw and woods. Newly elected President Mohamed Bazoum declared during his swearing ceremony that school is one of his top priorities. And right now, the next challenge will be for him to maybe take a strong decision to put an end to the use of this kind of classroom made of straw and woods in the country, as critics are becoming very tense right now in Niger.
Do you think that some parents may actually be sitting there now and saying, we don't want to send our children to these straw hut classrooms after seeing this horrific tragedy that's taken place?
Yes, it's true that some parents have already raised concern about that. And one parent that the BBC talked to in Niger, in Niamey, said he doesn't no more want this kind of classroom to exist in the country, and the government should be able to build very proper quality classrooms made of good materials for the safety of the children. And they can no longer accept this kind of classrooms in the country.
How easy is it going to be, though, to shift away from these, which are in effect overflow classrooms?
Please, could you repeat, please?
How easy is it going to be to move away from these straw classrooms?
Well, it's going to be very difficult because as Niger is one of the poorest countries in the world, they don't have a lot of financial means to build classrooms properly. They use this kind of straw and wood classroom, which are very popular.
Which is, very popular. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us there.
Now, was that a real rooster in the background of Buddy's phone call, or was that somebody's ringtone?
Now, there's growing concern that some anti-malarial drugs may not be as effective against what is one of the most deadly diseases as hoped. An observational study in Rwanda, which is published in the Lancet Infectious Diseases Journal, has found resistance which had previously been seen in South Asia now appearing in Rwanda. And if it becomes widespread across Africa, it could have serious consequences. Professor Philip Rosenthal from the University of California is an expert in anti-malarial resistance.
We've had problems with drug resistance in malaria for many years, especially with chloroquine, the drug that we used for many decades to treat malaria. But for about the last 20 years now, the standard of care to treat malaria has become a new class of drugs that have worked very well. Using drugs known as
chloroquine started getting
and
mentioned by
more
the president.
recently what's called artemisinin-based combination therapy, an artemisinin drug plus another drug. And those combinations have been very effective. What's concerning now is early evidence that may suggest the beginnings of a drug resistance to those drugs.
Remember those kids in that soccer thing that died in a container, shipping container
based combinations in Southeast Asia, but this new report suggests the beginnings of the problem in Africa.
And what has been the basis of why it's now gained this level of drug resistance? How is it that malaria could enter somebody's system and they could be using it, and then all of a sudden it seems that it's no longer effective against it?
All infectious agents work hard to evade whatever we throw at them.
No, they don't.
It's quite common for many different types of infections that over time organisms develop resistance to drugs.
So you want to be angry.
In this case, the artemisinin agents were used quite heavily in Southeast Asia, and for a number of reasons, only some of which we understand, that's the part of the world where resistance developed first, and it's already very well established.
As long as you're dealing with medicine that way.
And it's because we understand.
It's no different than saying you didn't sacrifice enough children this year is why there's hurricanes. Same fucking thought process.
Think you're going to send me to the joint with a batch of paint's going to help? Look, cop, you know I've been the rounds. I've seen enough trouble to know it's rough to get a conviction with circumstantial evidence. That's all you got with me, nothing more. Now, why don't you go home and I'll just forget you were here tonight?
We got the plant.
What?
We got the plant. They moved in on it.
The man you sold the stolen furniture to is willing to testify.
You know we got you cold. Now, why not cop out?
That's the way it hangs, huh?
That's the way.
All right, I'll get my coat and go
just point it out. We'll get it for you.
In the closet.
Never mind.
Hey, just make it a title.
Outside. He's in his car. Yeah, come on. He's heading down toward Rosecrans. Better hit the siren.
Right.
Turning on the Rosecrans. Take a left.
I got him. Try shot?
Better not. Too many people around. Can't you close in on them?
I think we're pulling up.
Making a turn.
Yeah.
Stay with them.
Hang on.
Put that in, Frank.
Yeah. He's in trouble, Joe.
Come on. Well, let's get him out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that door's stuck. Wait a minute, I'll give you a hand.
There.
Can you get him?
Better call an ambulance. The motor's in his lap.
You still alive?
It looks like it. Can you help me here?
Yeah, I'll leave it in there.
All right.
Come on, let's put him down here.
Yeah.
All right, take it easy, Lewis.
I'll call the ambulance.
Fine. Take it easy, Lewis. We sent for a doctor.
I didn't see the sign. I didn't know the street didn't go through. Lousy break. A lousy break. I'd have made it if I stayed off the street. You'd never got me if I stayed off the street. I just turned the car and all of a sudden I was on a dead end.
Afraid you're wrong there, mister.
Huh?
You've been there a long time.
The story you have just heard is true. The names were changed to protect the innocent. On October 14th, trial was held in Department 97, Superior Court of the State of California, in and for the County of Los Angeles. In a moment, the results of that trial. Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Well, here it is. The most...
It's right off to boot. For details, visit KCRW. Air conditioner for a great deal now.
Why would you be marketing What's wrong with you?
You. Best.
Conrad Austin Lewis and his Confederates were apprehended and brought to trial on 11 counts of grand theft auto and 1 count of kidnapping. They were found guilty and sentenced as prescribed by law. Grand theft auto is punishable by imprisonment in the state penitentiary for a period of not less than 1, nor more than 10 years. Kidnapping is punishable by imprisonment for a term of from 1 to 25 years in the state penitentiary.